You are listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers Podcast, TV show deep dive bonus episodes. These were originally recorded as videos, but technical limitations kept us from getting them out to you, so we have retreated to the audio-only format of a podcast. I have done my best to remove the silences from when we were watching scenes and chaotic background noises, but otherwise not edited the content at all for coherent thoughts. As with our regular podcast episodes, you can find these ad-free through our Patreon at patreon.com/WoTSpoilers. Part 2 of WoT Spoilers, covering episode 8 of the Wheel of Time show on Amazon in exhaustive detail. Here we go.
So we are joining Moiraine and Rand as they enter the Eye of the World. We just left off with the Algamars, Lord Algamar and Lady Amelisa.
Yeah, them doing the whole suicide pact. I mean, not suicide, but going down with the ship because we are the Lords of Feldara kind of thing. And that was an intense moment and will continue to be an intense moment for the rest of the episode. But yeah, now we are here at the Eye, which I saw a really cool quote from Yosha about this, where he, like on Twitter, he was just like, Robert Jordan envisioned this moment like 30 years ago. And then the moment when he like puts his hand on the seal is like, this is a hell of a, like, it's all coming together finally. Now there is an actor playing Rand on the set of the Eye of the World having this confrontation. Like, this was a, like, 31-year vision, you know? And that's cool.
And I love Yosha talking about Robert Jordan because he's the one who's really committed to reading the books, as far as I can tell, more so than anybody else. I get mixed things on where everybody is, but I think the girls aren't too far behind him.
Yeah, I thought I heard something about Yosha and Maddie like being in a race to get to the end. But yeah, the fact that they're all reading it is fabulous, and the fact that Rand in particular is having a little bit of foreshadowing from his alternate reality self, you know. And I think he even said he's looking forward to doing Dumai's Wells, which is just like, oh boy, I'm excited.
If there's anyone that I want to be a fan of the books, it's Yosha. Because he's going to be out there arguing for the Rand that we know and love more than anybody else. And over time, he's going to gain clout as being Rand, and he's going to be able to push for things. So I want Yosha to be as much of a fan of the books as Rafe is. I think that's a really good thing. And
to agree with you about if LTT is real or not.
Oh, well, of course,
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, here we go.
So it doesn't, to me, look like the Blight is coming from this location. She does say the Blight comes from the Eye of the World, or from the Dark One's prison.
It might be because they don't quite have their facts straight about what's going on there.
Okay. But I do like this intro. To me, the vision of what the Eye could be, I like that as a pit going down into the world and then something at the base of it. That's fine. I sort of...
Yeah, it's very cave-like.
Yeah. I guess the way I thought about it is, in the books, it's like this was the Pool of Sidene, and it was full up to the top. And this is what they go down into after he uses it up.
Yeah, it does have the post-battle Eye of the World feel, for sure. I really liked it. I liked the ornate stonework. I liked the fact that the plants are like the sense of loss, the sense of it's been a lost location for a very long time. Like, that's all very true to the feel of the book. And I just love Moiraine's face walking into it, because it's like she's been anticipating this moment for 20 years. And like, here she is finally walking into this thing that, I mean, yeah, she knows she's going to die probably, but also just like, this is the conclusion. She's in the final moments of concluding this quest. And it's just so gnarly. This environment is just lost. And she's like, I've been aiming here for so long.
That's an interesting way to go about the loss of knowledge, that it was deliberately destroyed by Dark Friends. I feel like that's something that's not explicit in the books, but something that could be very much implied.
I mean, if there were not information purges of the White Tower records by Dark Friends in the books, I don't know The Eyes to Die that Robert Jordan wrote. Like, that absolutely happened. We get references to the fact that Amerlins and their keepers will obfuscate and hide records, and sitters will obfuscate and hide records. You think Dark Friends haven't done that too? Like, it allows her to give us a lot of world building about the fact that Dark Friends in the Tower are a thing and a potent force acting on their history this whole time. Though I do wonder how they know that this place was purged. If all the records were purged, how did they know it was there? It's like, there's a detective story with a dogged brown Aja sister, like, digging through, like, the waste bin of the library in that. And I want that story.
Or maybe that was a little Varen information she passed on to Moraine.
Yes. Headcanon established until proven otherwise. It is kind of like the Hall of the Tower. A little bit. It
does look a lot like it. I can see if you put thrones in there in a circle, you would have a very similar sort of... And the hall goes up, this goes down. Sort of an inverted White Tower, if you would say.
I hadn't thought of that, but I can dig it.
The White Tower goes up to the Creator, and this goes down to the Dark One. And there we have...
There it is!
Our first shot of Aquendiar seal. 1 of 7, maybe? We don't know. Maybe the only one. There's a lot of speculation to go on there of what exactly they're going to do with that. One thing I noticed after he destroys it, the black part of the seal is gone. Like, it's scrubbed away. Mm-hmm.
Really? Oh, there's so many details about the seal that I was just enamored with how cool it looked. I didn't even notice what it looked like, you know? Like, this lovely contradictory way of appreciating it.
One thing, we do get a closer up shot later, and it does look like there are 8 spikes surrounding the seal. It is not. I was
you mentioned that.
Hoping for 7, because that would be the 7 spiked wheel around, but it's not. It's 8. And so the only thing I was able to connect that to was the number of Forsaken, because we have 9 Forsaken, and if Ishi's already out, the other 8 might be imprisoned in the seal, behind the seal, and each spike might represent one of the Forsaken.
Yeah, and I'm so curious about how many seals there are, because I didn't even think to question, like, if there would be 7 or not. Like, clearly there's going to be 7, but they're changing the number of Forsaken, and we don't know what the nature of this... I mean, the seal's clearly not something you can pick up and carry away in your pocket. Like, maybe they changed the number of seals. Maybe there's just 3, because that's a good number. Or there's only 1. Or, well, it's probably not only 1, but... Oh, questions.
I remember they changed the title of the White Tower to Watcher of the Flames, not Watcher of the Seals.
Oh, did they change that in Leanne's thing?
That's a good question. That was definitely the old tongue. I would have to go back and watch and see if it was changed.
Yeah, I thought she said Watcher of the Seals, Flame of Tarvalin.
Gotcha.
But yeah, in the cold open for this one, it was Watcher of the Flame.
Which would make sense because the seals hadn't
seals
been
back then.
Right,
so.
right.
I like that shot.
Again, that's POV from the Shamael from inside the seal.
Oh, I was struggling to figure out how it made sense, like, allegorically, because it was such a short shot and there wasn't very much, like, happening in it. I'm like, it's a cool shot, like reflections and distorted reality, like, but I was waiting for there to be a resolution to that symbol, and I think you're right. I think that is a Shamael being like, aha, he's finally here.
I think there's a lot of
flesh.
I think the directors like to play with POV, from the curved goblet of Valda to this sort of weird POV upshot. They're like, yeah, we're going to show you what the other person's seeing just in a distorted way or in a way that you're not suspecting. So, I mean, that's one way to start showing his madness. Is this madness? Is these memories? Is it both?
I don't want it to be madness. I want it to be some sort of weird eye of the world thinning of the barrier kind of thing that's going to drop back off once he's back in normal space time. I don't want this to be madness yet. I want his madness to start after he channels this massive amount of power. I mean, he says... No, he doesn't say he can feel it until after this experience. He says he doesn't care before this. But yeah, I don't want him to truly be getting the madness until after he has this experience. I want this to just be the weirdness of place. I do like that he immediately knows that it's him in the vision. that there's no question in his mind that is who he was. Like, because you can't communicate that sort of visceral heart feeling like you could in text. So I like that he's just like, oh, that's me, clearly.
But these are, I sort of think of this as us seeing his memories of the spot. Like, he's not seeing this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it comes together like little bits of memory. I mean, yeah.
Again, he's the one who says Dark One, unreliable narrator. It's always Ishii.
And then he says, it looks like a man. Like, he's already like questioning his assumptions, but things are moving too fast to really follow that thread.
I love that the water is acting like a mirror for him as he walks around. It's always like this distorted reflection back up of what's being seen through the bore.
Which makes a lot of sense for what you're saying. The POVs, like, wow.
And then he touches it, and in the real world, he passes out.
Yeah.
And Moraine,
he just collapses. And Moraine rushes to him, but he's gone. He is fully enmeshed into another space.
What do you think this is? Dream Shard? It's not a dream, right?
Yeah, no, it's not Tel'aran'rhiod at all. I was imagining Dream Shard because that's kind of Ishii's specialty, is creating those little bubbles of manipulable reality, and it follows very Tel'aran'rhiod rules. So I don't think that it's not related to dreams, especially here in this place where Ishii's clearly able to touch the world a little more easily. It makes sense that like he's probably been living in this kind of a hologram to entertain himself for the last 3,000 years, you know? So you notice the first thing he sees is the last thing we saw LTT with in the cold open, is a cradle. It's an empty cradle here, but there's so much cradle symbology that it's like, just in case you were missing what we're saying, have another cradle symbol. Have another cradle symbol. Because this is more or less picking up where LTT left off, right?
Right. Back. That's what Shamael thinks Rand wants, is his life back the way it was. Here's your wife, here's your children. You can have what you lost before you went insane. That's what he's offering him.
I can make her live again, Luce Theron. Take it after Pod on Fane?
I guess, yeah.
Maybe
got tired of paying Pod on Fane, decided to make his own. Started selling them for decent money.
I saw some really fun fic and ship conversations around how, like, clearly Matt is part of the family. He's, Matt and Rand are a thing, and Egwene's like, yes, we just have this random boyfriend in the barn or whatever. That just there's a lot of the shippers and the fic writers really enjoyed running with the implications of why Matt was in charge of making the lanterns for the Althor family.
I think I'm gonna go with Occam's razor here and be like, family friend who promised to do something, but it's fucking Matt.
But Rand is fucking Matt. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, stream over. We're going.
You see, Master of the Deck, you see what you have done to my podcast.
Joya, yeah, definitely. So the parallels with Egwene's vision in her accepted test, right?
This is very much like her first vision in her accepted test, just from Rand's perspective, which factors into my book headcanon as well as my speculation about the show, because I've always wondered how much those visions for the accepted tests have seeds of truth or have connections to actual Tel'aran'rhiod and other people versus just being part of their imaginations. And this to me strengthens the idea that there are shared pieces of their reality that the world of dreams can draw in, because like they both have the name Joya. They both have this vision of an idyllic life at home that gets torn apart. Like I want there to be something there, and I see no evidence to stop me from running wild with that.
I like the ribbon braided into her hair. I think that's a neat little detail they added.
I love her whole costume. She just looks a little older, a little more mature with the vest, and also love her earrings. I need her earrings, like, so bad.
And then this is the vision that Min has.
Oh, is this the kid from Min's vision?
I have to assume That the vision is of this moment, him holding a child in the future. It's just...
I didn't even think of that. But this is I think in many ways, the fact that this kid is part of the vision is part of what helps him like hold on to his reality. I mean, obviously his speech is about Egwene and her agency, but you see with LTT that being a father and protecting the world for his kids is very, very important. So it makes sense that that's part of Rand's arc too. And I love the idea that that is why Min saw that, because it's a big part of how he resolves his... Ooh, I didn't even think of that. Love it.
I'm like, it's an immediate payoff. Like, when does he hold a child, right? Like, we see him holding a child right here. And I know it's not a real child.
In the books.
But
like, it's not a thing in the books, so...
and Min doesn't have to say everything I see happens, but... It, happening in Telerun Riyadh, happening in a dream, all of those things are entirely possibilities. Especially for a show that really likes to fake us out on deaths and, plot points and be like, oh yeah, this is how it happened, but not really.
Yeah, and he doesn't hold the kid in quite the same posture, and it's not quite the same kid, unless it is. I don't know, I'm bad with kid faces. But I hadn't even thought of that connection. I dig it. Oh, we've got a screenshot in chat of... It's not the same kid. This kid has wavy hair, whereas that kid has straight hair. But, and
the clothes...
Rocking a baby is... That still happens. There are other visions were very literal, though. So... But who knows? Parent hasn't had blood running down his chin yet, so,
And the one thing, he is in Min's vision, he's in the blue shirt, which he's currently wearing right now.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And maybe it's just COVID swapped out the kid.
Baby actors it's just, when I see baby, I'm like, it's a baby, I don't care. Like, no one's trying to identify.
Okay, except for at the end of Hunger Games, when 2 white kids somehow had an Asian baby, and that was supposed to resolve the plot in 3 seconds. That was frustrating. But otherwise, I agree with you. Did you watch the end of Hunger Games?
Yes, but I do not remember that in the slightest. Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the book, having a kid is an important thing, and they have that shot at the end of the movie, but it's like very clearly an Asian baby, and there's no explanation of it being an adopted kid, and neither of the parents are Asian, and it's just like, you couldn't find a white baby to do this like literal 1-second shot? But regardless, I agree that caring about baby casting too much is a fool's errand. What was she trying to do there? What are the ice stabby stabs supposed to do?
Stabby stab.
It's like she's trying to is it just to stab him?
Yeah. Those are sharp things of air that are just points. She attacked as fast and effectively as she possibly could to stab him in the face with weaves of air.
I just like, don't you know he's a non-corporeal vision that clearly doesn't have physical reality? Isn't that... Oh, okay. Sure.
No, it's not obvious.
Vision.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's fine. What else are you going to do, right?
Like, it looks cool.
It looks really
I really
cool.
like it. It looks very cool.
I do think he's actually there, though. Standing on the seal.
I don't know. I assumed he was a projection, but...
That's a good question.
Who's to say?
Let's see if we can... I'm going to go back a little bit and see him up here. No, he's just standing there, so we don't see him actually pop.
Yeah, he's just standing there. I don't know.
Okay, so then we get this next sort of
debate. Let's disagree about this.
Okay, so I may have come around a little bit. I think 2 things happened, right? So I think first of all, I think he is shielding her here.
Sure. It looks just like the shield that we saw on Logan. The network lattice.
It's so fast, but we see there's one thing where the net goes into her, which is very much a shield. And you can still see that on her face and neck in this shot. I think that's a shielding. But then these 2 weaves that go in, I missed that on my first watch. That is severing.
Yeah, I agree. I strongly agree that it goes into the chest and she's screaming in pain. That's not shielding. And we see, like, in multiple instances, but particularly when Nynaeve and Moghedien are trying to smash up the Tanchican Museum, that you can have a shield that slices permanently, or a shield that is blunt enough that it can be undone. Like, we see that shielding and severing can be part of the same weave. It's just a matter of how sharp it is.
Right. And there was one time where you can try and sever, and if it can be blunted if they're holding the power, and only shield them. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah.
And her reaction is just, she wouldn't be as distressed as she is if it was just a shield. It's too raw.
No, I saw the shield image happening, and it the CGI to me was shielding. And there's a few other lines where she's like, you can sense it, but you can't quite touch it. To me, that's different. That feels like shielded, not severed. Because I feel like severed, you don't sense it anymore.
Yeah, I was confused if he meant like, does he mean that like she can literally feel it, or just that she knows academically that it's right there?
Right, yeah.
Because, I mean, we get that from Wandering Woman. What the hell's her name? Satala Anan. We get that from her when she talks to Rand. Like, you know it's there. You can't feel it, but you intellectually know it's there. So, like, I don't know if Ishi's just playing mind games with her, or if they've just changed the wording slightly and it's up to interpretation. But the little hand motion he makes at the end...
Yeah.
Is like, was he tying off a knot?
That's what it looks like.
Was he finishing a slice? Like,
It was also
still 5%
golden.
Open to being wrong. Mm-hmm. Like, did he just knot her up so hard that she doesn't think she's ever going to get out of it? Like, I genuinely don't know, because that motion at the end was given a lot of emphasis for being the end of stilling. I want her to be able to get it back. I just don't think she will.
And I need to talk about this image for a second. This just like him aligned with the Fang, with her sort of spread out behind him on the edge of, and not in the center of the seal. Like, the way they position them and the way the weaves cut across is just masterful. This whole thing, this is like a painting right there.
It's beautiful. It's also kind of got a little bit of echoes of that Michelangelo painting of the Madonna and Christ.
Yes.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, this to me, you're right, this is a severing weave. And unlike with Logain, we saw the black wings come out, but that must be an effect of the taint. So then the question is...
That was my assumption.
Is severing in the series healing the taint? Because it looked like it all poured out of him. So that could be a change they made.
Yeah, like... Because, I mean, Swan says you have to, live here until the madness overtakes you, but she might mean the madness of despair rather than the madness of channeling. Like, so many questions. Also, love the economy of motion that Ishi has with his channeling. All the other channelers are like doing, interpretive dance over this, and he's just like, it's very... It fits how his personality and his style and his worldview are so different.
Also his power, right? He is just that good. He doesn't need flashy emotions. He just needs to be able to twitch, and he's got you. And, and that goes along with Valda saying, someone once told me the motions aren't strictly necessary. And it's like, the more powerful you are, the more advanced you are, the less motions you need to do. So yeah, that right there.
It's got real strong Leandrin and Moghedian vibes. Yeah. Is that Leandrin getting permanently knotted up by Moghedian, or is that finishing off the severing? Because she seems to feel severed before he does that. So,
So what is this?
Questions.
And that finger device that he's wearing, which the knot comes from, is also the same thing that LTT was wearing in the flashback. And it's the same thing that Anna Latrella, the Tamerlane, was wearing. Like, they were both wearing that Onrial, Terranrial, Saanrial.
Ring of Office. Like, I don't know what it is. It does have I used to think it was just around the three fingers. There's actually a loop around the pointer finger as well that helps it stay on. Because I was wondering, how does it stay on? Are you just supposed to grip your hand all day? No, there is an actual ring that fits the pointer finger. There's a better shot of it later, but it seems like it's just a piece of jewelry.
Yeah, but it links your pinky finger and your pointer finger, right?
No, it's just around the middle three.
I see a ring on the pinky that connects it to the bar.
You sure that's not just the power?
Yeah. Again, my resolution's clearer than you.
Yeah, mine keeps going in and out. I only ever saw it around the 3 fingers. We'll see if I can.
Yeah, he does say to know, not to feel. So.
Yeah. I'm eager to see how she responds in season 2 and what her arc is in the aftermath after she's gotten to like sleep and eat at least once, you know?
Right, so that was very weird to me because it looked like that was a charge to attack. And then it cuts to them just riding up to the hills and using, like... Also...
They don't use their horses in the battle once. They have them all armored up, and they're riding in formation. They're all pumped up. It's like they took that cool moment from the last battle with Lan and just slapped it in here, because every good battle needs a cavalry charge, I guess.
Right. I also just... This shot shows you there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8... You know, there's maybe 20 horsemen up front, you know, and maybe 50 across, 10 deep, maybe 500 soldiers behind them. So, I mean...
It's a very small force.
It's a very small force. Which, I mean, makes sense that, like, a force of 1,000 Trollocs would be a real threat to this force. That would be something that they would ride out on a regular basis. With a wall and 500 men, you can probably face down 1,000 Trollocs pretty easily. Everybody only has to shoot 2 crossbows, you know, accurately, you know.
And this battle goes on for hours. Like, they spend the better part of a day killing the Trollocs before they get through the fortress. Like, I know movie timing is tough, but, like, they give us very distinct day, night, day lighting, and so these guys do hold their own against a far greater force for a very long time.
I love that shot of the wall that you can see it's flat on one side and steps leading up all the way on the other. Mm-hmm. Just how effective that is as a sort of defensive. But also, once they get over the top, you're screwed. Well,
they get through the middle, more like. They actually just punch their way through the arrow slits, it's a major numbers game. It's clear that what this fortress does is it operates as a baffle on the forces of the dark. And it's like, it's really a numbers game that is in favor of the humans, unless the Trollocs happen to have, 100-fold increased their forces since the last time you did a census, which is clearly what happens.
Yep, and all those Trollocs hiding out in the Blight that we just totally ran into with Moraine. And I think that would have been nice to at least have them avoid the troops.
Well, I mean, I think you could say that they happened to avoid them by, like, going up a ridge while the Trollocs were using, like, the low ground to move. But, yeah, 30 seconds of geographic exposition would have been appreciated.
Also a shame we didn't get to see any of this in action.
I was so excited to see the women pulling out this industrial warfare stuff, being very competent with it, working well together. Like, I wanted to see the women of Fal Dara kicking ass. And yes, a few of the women of Fal Dara kicked ass, but there was a lot of cool props that we just didn't get to see, which was...
It was like one of my favorite moments in episode 1 was Days Conger and the pitchfork, right? Like, and I wanted to see more of that on a Fal Dara scale of, like, just women being like, you want some of this? Like, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, these harpoons that are, like, longer than they are getting fired out, like, and Amalisa's like, leave nothing in reserve. Like, you really expect this to be, like, a huge shootout. And then we didn't get one action shot, and it's the women of Fal Dara deserve better. We
should start a sign campaign. The women of Fal Dara deserve better. Let them fight.
I mean, arguably, them not dying is a plus for them. They probably appreciate just having to put it all back after a training exercise. But
but if you think about it, like, all the men of Fal Dara are dead. Like, every fighting man went to that wall, and then it was overrun. And then not a single woman of Fal Dara died, except the 3 that were out front.
Yeah, they're going to need to import some refugees from elsewhere to refresh their population.
All I'm saying, Fal Dara women are about to get a reputation.
Fal Dara women after a battle. Yeah. Saldian farm goes at harvest.
Yeah. Fail will have a new group to be like, you're making me as horny as a Fal Daran warrior woman after a battle. Yeah.
The other interesting thing about this is where she's like, I mean, obviously foreigners can leave. Like, that's legitimate and fine. But, like, every child needs to stay and fight. Like, I will have 6-year-olds with butcher knives at the last if that's what it takes. And it's, that's hardcore.
I mean, she's convinced it's the last battle.
Which is fair. I mean, she's wrong, but she's making a reasonable decisions based on that assumption, for sure.
What do you think about her armor?
Well, it's her father's armor, so that's a badass move. Seems a little bulky around the neck.
I mean, which I kind of like that.
Super cool.
Because it's like, hey, this is her father's armor. It does not fit her exactly. It is too big for her. I like that detail. That's fair. Yeah. And it still looks really cool, right? Like, in a lot of ways, because it's too big for her, it makes her look kind of badass.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that she's like, fine, my brother's not going to wear it. I'm slapping that shit on. And it makes her stand out. It makes her look very, it gives her the attitude of being in control of the city, which is important for morale because she's trying to rally the women to be like, you're going to be widows in a couple of hours, but I'm going to need you to kill the fuck out of the Trollocs before your children get slaughtered. So like, just look at me. I am a god in armor. I will protect you. It's fine. Which is cool. And yeah, Min is getting the fuck out. Because Min is not Shinaran. Min is Andoran.
I like her hair a lot more without the headband.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. The headband was clearly like, this is the Min that we leave behind. Like, just like the 90s and headbands. Like, we're leaving that behind. That was just for a moment.
It's also working in a bar, you sweat, right? A headband is useful.
Having the hair out of your face. Yeah. For sure. Also, I want to know, like, was Min just escaping the battle? Or is she going to meet Rand? Because
I didn't think about that. Yeah, because she could not just be running. She could be going somewhere. There could be something that she knows based on the visions. Yeah. Because again, her visions make her much more.
Or she knows she's going to meet him again. She knows that he's not going to die. Like, maybe she knows she needs to go somewhere. Or she's just like, I'm not staying in a doomed city when there's a perfectly legitimate way for me to get the fuck out of here. Because she's clearly a survivor who looks out for number one. Like, that's definitely who she is. But I'd like to think that maybe she's going to meet Rand and be like, you're late.
It's why Dana was actually a pretty good stand-in for Min, because they had similar sort of personalities. This looking out for number one, the like survivor bias. Yeah, working in a bar. Like, there were, I think when I saw her, I was like, are they making that Min? I knew Min had already been cast, so I was like, oh, that's definitely not Min. But like, for a second there, I was like, are they going to? They used, I think, a lot of Min's sort of lines and personality in that initial meeting with Dana.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense for show watchers to be like, just so you know, cute girls at bars, maybe don't trust them.
Yeah. No, it makes it a little harder to trust Min, doesn't it? Love this shot. I don't know why, but this is prototypical Min to me. Just like,
yes,
peace.
Yeah, that I agree. That shot more than anything else we've seen of her was like, that's the Min I know. Mm-hmm. That's the Min from the books. I mean, I know she's going to grow into the character, but this was definitely like, there she goes. I know her. Uno strutting along.
And then at this point, I was like, okay, what? Like, I was very, very confused as to what was about to happen at this point. No clue that the Horn of Valyr was going to be under the throne.
Oh, as soon as he said, you know what to do, I was like, is there a horn? And then I see them with the pickaxes. I was like, they hid the horn in the keep. Oh my God, I never saw that go. Like, as soon as I saw him strutting down the hallway with a pickaxe, I'm like, what else is Uno doing other than digging up the hidden in plain sight Horn of Valyr? Like,
yeah, nice. Because I was just like, an object of power? I really couldn't come up with anything.
I mean, just the way he sets up to like do that swing is just, I love him so much.
Yeah, no, I was very curious. And again, that's one of those things I'm like, why not pull that out earlier? Why not give it to Lord Alkmaar? Why not have it on the breach? Right? Like, why not?
Because they need it to be paired with the dragon. Like,
Rand's going to need it.
Yeah, because Perrin says, oh, we got to get it out so we can blow it for the battle. And Yokota is like, no. We have to take it away for the dragon. So clearly they have a thing where the dragon has to declare himself before the horn can be blown or something. I don't know. They're messing with the lore just enough that I'm only speculating. So in that, couple of things. First of all, they're walking towards the gates with none of their gear, so clearly they're not planning on leaving in that moment. Perrin, what are you doing? You say you can't just leave them, but then you literally sit in the keep and bitch about how you can't do anything. I'm so confused what Perrin thinks he can do by staying, given that he can't pick up a weapon at this point. Like, what is he suggesting that they do by staying? Like, we have to stay and watch them die. Like,
and who is them? Is he talking about Rand and Moraine?
Well, I assumed it was the people of Faldara because of the way he gestures at everyone, but it makes no sense given that he does nothing to protect the city. So maybe he was talking about the rest of them and was like, we can't leave Faldara until they come back. Maybe that is what he meant.
I was thinking I can't leave Rand and Moraine until they come back.
That makes more sense than we can't leave the city of strangers that I have no capacity to defend. That is more logical. For sure.
But yeah, I agree. It's an awkward line where it's like, I'm not sure why you said that. But yeah, Perrin doesn't know what to do. He's like, I should be peaceful, but I'm in this war-torn place with beasts that are attacking. He doesn't really know how to fight. Like, we've never seen him pick up an axe or anything, other than Winter Night. Like, we haven't seen him train. We haven't seen him.
Yeah. And then
we haven't seen him battle rage,
Well, we saw battle rage, but in a body that was far too broken to do anything about it. And then the thing with Loyal is like, it's not loyal, but he brings the line of like, oh, they're calling for all women who can channel. But like, you're foreigners, you can bail. Like, why do they feel obliged to go help? Like, you're not Shinarans.
I mean, I guess only because they've faced the Trollocs in the Two Rivers and they know what's coming. And they feel like they should do whatever they can to stop that. Yeah,
it's very truncated reasoning when you can't be inside someone's head for these conversations.
I know, it's so frustrating that we don't get to hear their thoughts. Seriously.
Just give me constant overlapping voiceovers.
And I won't be the first person to point out crossbows don't make a lot of sense in this situation. You want to pump out as many arrows as fast as you can. You're not really looking for the penetrating power when you're up high. You're just trying to hit as many of them as fast as you can.
I'm guessing that they want to play up the technical accomplishments of the age and so have more complicated weaponry in this like highly militaristic society, but that's entirely a prop decision rather than a strategy decision. I do like that he has that line about let them pay for every step in blood, because I think that comes up at least twice in the books. And the theory comes up many times. And if there was ever a person to deliver it, it is Agilmar at the Gap. Like, excellent use of that line.
And it looks like the Trollocs are waiting for nightfall to attack, or at least sunset.
Sunset. Yeah, there's a lot of shots of sunset, like, which I think is a very allegorical, like the fading light. Right? Like, the darkness is closing in. There's a lot about the strategy of the Trollocs and the Myrddraal here that are frustrating and probably mostly entirely due to COVID. The CGI quality, there's just a lot wrong with it that it's like, well, if COVID hadn't happened, how wrong would it still be? Like,
I mean, yeah, they spent so much time showing us these Trollocs in episode 1, and I think they're just leaning on that here and being like, okay, you saw them in detail in episode 1. You know what each individual looks like. Now we're just going to show you the mass from a distance and hope that that's good enough.
Yeah, but then when they run up to the thing, it's not nearly the carpet of Trollocs that I would have expected. Like, I mean, look to the Battle of Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings. Like, that's what this is echoing, but the enemies on the ground are so much thinner. It's frustrating, though. I do enjoy the part where it's not in the rain, like the Battle of Helm's Deep. I do like it not being a rain battle. That's fine. But yeah. Also, love the music here. that like guitar riff, it's metal. It's metal. The whole thing suddenly feels very modern and very metal. And it almost makes me forgive the Fades for having cloaks that move.
Yeah, I mean, that's a CGI issue again. Just like...
I know. I'm just going to stay mad about that on my own little hill. But I love the music.
It's like the ageless faces. It's one of those things you can describe, but no one can actually really visualize. And if they did visualize it, everyone would be arguing about how badly and how off not their head it looked.
It's really hard to imagine how it would look in my imagination, which has an unlimited budget, so I can forgive them, but I will still give them guff about it because it's fun.
I hated that line.
I didn't hate the line, but I hated the delivery. Because it's like he's saying it to the enemy.
Exactly.
But he means it for his compatriots, and I think even more so for his sister. But it's like he's delivering it to the wrong target.
Yeah, he's like, last embrace will welcome you home, and then he shoots the Trolloc. And it's like, you don't honor a Trolloc.
No. I mean, unless they have some sort of like religious metaphysical understanding that those were once human souls that have been twisted and you're releasing them for rebirth by killing them. I don't think so. I think it is to the people standing side by side and to all the women, particularly his sister, standing behind. And it just... Couldn't you just have reshot that line, please?
And someone makes a good point. It would be better welcome us home rather than welcome you home would be better.
Exactly. Yeah. If he had said that, I wouldn't have even paused on the line. And I would have just been like, yay, book line. But, oh well.
I thought that was a cool shot. I will admit.
I liked that.
Yeah.
Metal. So metal.
And I like that the Trollocs are just running in a mass. No ranks. They're just spread out and go. And he's like, just go as fast as you can.
It's just a numbers game. That's all this is.
Yeah, don't accuse Nynaeve of being Moiraine's. Yeah, it's one way to piss her off.
Yeah.
Question that everybody has is, why not on the wall? Why down in front?
I got nothing. Likewise, I have nothing for why they don't have proper siege tools on the gap, like cauldrons for boiling water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just
boiling pitch, falling rocks. There's so many ancient, well-proven ways to defend a wall that are not utilized on the gap that it makes no sense. It makes way less sense than their anachronistic use of the word fire to release arrows, because you can come up with all kinds of reasons for that, but there's no reason not to have huge cauldrons full of pitch that you can heat up and dump on these piles of Trollocs that are crawling up the wall.
Or parapets or overhangs and like, yeah. And I also don't like the fact that the Trollocs got in through the arrow slits. That should basically not be possible. Like, the stone is thick enough that you'd have to hammer at it for hours to break through, you know?
Well, I mean, the battle does seem to go for hours. So, and I think, they come through the bottom. I don't know. It's fortress warfare.
But it's clear that could have been a longer shot with a lot more interesting warfare going on at the front before they broke through. And I can see the logic for putting the women out front would be that you have 3 lines of defense. You have the wall and the gap, you have your channelers, and then the third line of defense is the wall and the women with the siege engines and towers. And they were expecting to just, do some damage, maybe funnel them into a central point. Maybe there's some reason to turn the Trollocs or something like that and have your channelers at a point. I get all those arguments, but yeah, there's some... It looks more like, hey, we can have a cool rolling lightning across the plane if we put these women on the plane.
And I just really don't like not getting a shot of Amelisa handing the keys and the power of the city to her second in command before heading out on a suicide mission. Like, it just... Fine, your brother's going to die in the gap. You want to die before the city has a single death. Fine. But show us your second in command accepting the responsibility of defending the city. Show us that. This is also probably a lot easier for them to shoot than having them on top of the keep, just from a cinematic perspective.
Because you have 5 people standing in a field.
Yeah.
And then you CGI the rest. Yeah. So, I get that. I get that.
Yeah, it's... But the visual of it only takes 5 women with no weapons to smash an army, like, immovable force hits immovable object hits unstoppable force. Like, it's kind of cool. I just needed a little more story to make me believe that this was the right choice.
Yeah, and especially because they're not expecting, she's at this point, she's like, oh, I've got 2 weak channelers and these 2 accepted who probably don't even have any power.
And they're novices still.
They're novices, right? Yeah, not even. So she's hoping to throw out a few lightning bolts probably before she dies at this point. So
yeah, I also find it hard to believe that there's only 2 other channelers in the entire keep of Faldara. The way she says that line, bring me women who can channel, I expected there to be a dozen. in a city of that many thousands of people. Like, I thought that the way she delivered the line was like, I know that there's a double handful, at least, that she gets 2.
It would have been nice to see a full 13. I think that this would have been a cool time to bring 13 sisters out and show us the power level jump up that happens when you have a full 13. And then I would have been like, oh yeah, okay, so it takes at least 13 sisters to create this like surge of power. That would have been cool.
Yeah, but this strategy of hers wouldn't have done more than kill like a few dozen Trollocs, if not for Nynaeve and Egwene showing up. And like, she couldn't have anticipated that happening. She's like surprised here. So it's just, fuck you, COVID. Fuck you.
You can say it to its face, because it's right here.
Yeah.
Also, like, hey, any backstory on her?
That's the Malkiri woman she had dinner with, isn't it?
Oh, nice catch. I did not realize that.
That is the, I think she's random Malkiri woman, but yeah, that's the woman that she had dinner with. That's why she looks over at her. That's why they have that look, is because she knows that she's Lan's beau,
So yeah, again, the whole like tiny world. That's the one, like, of all the channelers in the city, she had dinner with one of them. Of the 2 channelers?
Yeah,
right, like,
which would be easier to believe if there was 100 channelers or even 13, but if there's 2, like, I dig the idea that one of the only channelers that is around is a Malkiri woman. Like, that is a cool, like, yeah, no, the Malkiri are badass, and even when they're in this, highly attenuated state, you've still got channelers coming through. Like, that's cool. Also sucks that she's the first one to burn out because she's the weakest. That's kind of a bummer for the strength of Malkiri badassery. But it does drive home the pain for Nynaeve a little bit, because this is a woman who she is undoubtedly going to want to emulate a tiny bit, because, we got the Kai sign, or the dot. She's one of Lan's people, and then she dies because Nynaeve isn't able to protect her. Like, I like that parallel of having her in that battle side by side with Nynaeve.
And she's also not native to Faldara, so she could have left.
And she chose to stay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's my adopted home. Damn it. Right? Like, that's badass. The Malkiri are badass, and that's why Nynaeve can be an honorary Malkiri at some point. I'm standing.
Like, I love that pedantic, well, actually, loyal.
Loyal is all of us Browns. He is all of us, Vulcans. He's the best, and I love him.
Such a cool line, no payoff.
Well, that's why they go and help with getting out the horn. That's why they do that.
But do they help?
Well, Uno looks freaking... they show up when the guys are leaning on their pickaxes, being very tired. And then they get, like, a stonemason, culturally speaking, and a blacksmith. These are people with muscles to bring to bear on digging this thing out. It's pretty weak payoff. I do like, though, that in typical Loyal fashion, it takes him, like, 4 times as long as necessary to say what he's going to say. Like, that is a theme of his writing that I am super here for. Because it's like, the situation is urgent. Can you get to the point? No, he can't. He's an Ogier. And I do like that Perrin is working through his angst around violence in the Way of the Leaf with Loyal, who's going to be the most, like, calm, empathetic, and knowledgeable person he could have that conversation with. That's cool. But yeah,
But again, that wasn't much of a conversation. That was Perrin saying something and Loyal saying something and then cutting.
I'm stretching.
I want more. Oh, give me more. Give me more. You can't just give me these little clippets. Like, clearly they were sitting there talking for a long time. Don't give me 3 seconds of it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That is the theme.
So he's remembering this isn't what she wanted, that she wanted to be Aes Sedai at this point.
Right, he's trying to reconcile the two things. It's too good to be true.
In that moment, he's like, this is false.
And then he tells way too long of a story to prove his point. Do not understand why this story had to take so many seconds.
All right, so what I think he's doing here is he's tricking Baalzamon.
Okay, I considered that, but...
That what he realizes in this moment, Egwene's not, like, at this point, that argument about Egwene's not who she is, this is not the real Egwene, he knows that, he feels that, and from now on, he's like, okay, I'm gonna pretend to fall into this trap to learn what I can learn. But not once from here on out do I think he's accepting this reality.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where he turned, because he's smart, but he gives a very convincing performance to Balsamon. And I was not sure.
I think that whole, like, verifying Egwene knows something about his past, he's like, you're in my head, of course you know. Like, I don't think that's verifying anything. I think that's entirely a performance for Balsamon. Everything from here on out.
So clumsy and weird. So I like that as being, he's actually being smart here rather than taking up way too many pages of the script with a completely useless story. And also, who carves an entire paragraph into a tree?
I mean, there's a lot of trees in the Two Rivers.
But he's like, we're like kids and we had a moment and we carved a freaking sonnet about our eternal love as 12-year-olds. Like, I'm so like, no.
Yeah, I only caught it as like a single line.
Well, I thought so until I watched the captions and I saw where the quote ended, where the close quote was positioned. And it's frustrating. Captions
have been forsworn to me ever since they did Lord, Captain.
Okay. Well,
they fucked that up.
I agree. I thought
Lord
our
Captain.
place was all that was there, and they put the quote in. Okay, cool. So Rand is tricking Balsamon, and the caption writers were not good at their jobs.
Because remember, caption writers always come in afterwards and do it. They're doing it based on seeing the show. They don't have any inside information on what's going on. They don't get the script or anything like that. I don't think. I don't have. I don't know that for sure. But based on the captions I've seen, they are not based on any script I've ever seen. Like, that is not pre-written. Those are all typed up in response to what people are saying. And so,
well, at least it wasn't just done by an AI. Clearly a human was involved somewhere along the way.
Right. I think that he's setting up some foreshadowing there. That they're going to argue, go somewhere, maybe be trapped together for a night, and then be not as angry and make up in the morning. Like, I just think there's going to be sparks between these two, and he's foreshadowing. A lot of the conversations, I think, in season 1 are foreshadowing between the two of them for their relationship going forward. And the contention between the Dragon Reborn and the Amyrlin seat. Like, there's a lot of setup payoff going on for the conflict between the two of them.
So he'll actually, at some point, they will be able to reference this real memory that they had together.
Yes.
I dig it. I could definitely see it.
So that's all I thought was carved. Our place for this life and the next.
Well, see, I thought it should have just been our place. Like, that was where my mind put the close quote, was just our place. And then when she kept going on and on, I was like, that's a lot to carve into a tree. And then I saw the captions with the quote, and I was just like, have you ever carved words into a tree before? I mean, I haven't, because I don't hurt trees, but like...
6 words. It's... Especially for people who, like, are farmers and use knives and carve things on a regular basis. Like, that doesn't seem like a crazy thing to me.
But it's going to grow over and become illegible, like a tattoo on, like, your belly or something. It's just...
Yes, the first thing 10-year-olds are thinking about.
Well, I would have. But, okay.
I think that's all a performance for the dark, for...
I was taken in by that. I was just like, what are you doing? Like, how are you this stupid? And I
see how his brow's furrowed? Like, he is not happy. He's like, ugh, you really do have all our memories.
Yeah, and the pain of knowing that this isn't real, but it's everything he wanted, and it feels real, but he knows it's not. Like, yeah, there's a lot of pain there. He fooled me. Yosha Rand fooled me, just like Balsamon got fooled. I
could be wrong.
No, I think you're right. I know, and she's put in the credits for all of this. Like, they didn't CGI her, and they made her stand there in that awkward position the whole time. Yeah, she definitely needed a neck massage after that. Oh, yeah, there's a great picture of them being goofy on set with what is clearly a doll in that position. And he looks like he's going to eat the baby, and she looks all zombied out. And it's a wonderful picture on their Instagram. It's definitely a prop.
Also, that picnic kind of reminds me of Fael and Perrin's picnics that they go and have. The romantic ones. That's sort of more of a Two Rivers tradition.
Yeah, that is a Two Rivers thing. The Shanahar, I think, is what they call it.
What do you think he's referring to there? Because that doesn't seem like the one power.
Yeah, no, Ishii is such a creepy, controlling, self-deluded demigod wannabe. He has this, it's very much what the Dark One sells minions on is like, I mean, the Dark One's going to make the world in his own image. And Ishii's whole argument here is the only free will that matters is that of the most powerful man in the world. And no one else's free will matters. No one else's agency matters. If you are the biggest kid in the group, your will can be imposed on everyone. And that's very Dark One. That's not really what we get in terms of most of the Forsaken and how they approach things. That is like straight out of the Dark One's playbook. So he's playing mind games with Rand because he's trying to get the seal broken, not trying to turn Rand to the dark side at this point.
Do you think? I think he's trying to do both. I think it's a win-win situation. Either Rand gives in and creates the world in his own image, and I assume that's basically the Dark One winning right there and then. You know, if Rand is essentially turned to the dark to do this thing, to make people over in his own image, like that's terrible. So if he gives into that, and the Dark One grants him that power, the Dark One wins. So that's a possibility. And then the other possibility is he attacks and breaks the seal.
Yeah. Or it's just a way of putting Rand into a bubble universe off to the side forever and completely neutralizing him out of the gate. If he buys into this, then he will forever be cut off from his body and unable to interact with the real world because he's lost in this dreamscape. That would be a very like Star Trekian way of interpreting that.
He just ends up in the seal. Yeah. Nice. I like that a lot. So my question, though, is, and we'll talk about this more, is Rand channeling the true power at some point here?
I don't think so. Maybe it's brittle because the Dark One and the true power are pushing on one side, and then Rand hits it with such an intense smack of power with the Angreal and all of that stuff that like that's enough. The metaphysics of Quendiar and the true power are complicated, and I don't get it.
Right. Well, because, I mean, well, and the whole thing about the seals is, I mean, Jordan said that wasn't necessarily the true power. That was the evil deeds men do in the real world that weaken the seals. That wasn't the true power from the inside. So, you know, that... But... And we also assume the sad bracelets were destroyed with the true power because they were Quendiar.
Right.
But were they Quendiar or were they just... that's one of those weird things.
They're not Quendiar, but they do survive Balefire. I think that's where you're getting that idea from, is that we do see them pass out of a Balefire beam, which makes them seem like Quendiar, but they're made by people post Age of Legends, so I don't think it's Quendiar. Maybe it's just the black half of Quendiar.
There's a certain amount of confusion around Terangreal. Because like I feel like some Terangreal are indestructible on a level that makes them look like Quendiar, but they're not Quendiar.
Right. Concentrated power in an object gives it unusual material properties.
Like, do you think the Horn of Valir could be balefired out of existence?
Nope. Definitely not. It's too eternal and necessary to the whole existence of the wheel. Oh, okay, stop there. Look at her earrings. I need her earrings. I will buy those earrings from the merch store. So bad. They're so pretty. Just, like, let me get out of the way. There's the mushroom with the spiral stem at the bottom. I need those earrings in my life very badly.
Yeah, come on, Bald Eye Jewelry. Let's get on the ball here. There's so many pieces of jewelry that were made that just need to be mass produced for us to buy.
I don't really want Amazon's dumbass shirts. I want those earrings. Also, I kind of love the fact that the wind is still operating in all of this scene. Like, her hair is moving and the laundry is moving and the grass is moving. Like, there's this sense of there's one reality, like the fabric of the dream shard, and then there's the stuff that Baalzamon is creating to mess with Rand's mind. And like, there's a difference. At first I was annoyed. I'm like, what is this CGI nonsense that you aren't? But I kind of dig it. Like, the more I watch it, like, the wind is still real. The wind is still present.
The world exists, just not the people in it. Meanwhile, he's like, it doesn't matter to me the way I win, because I've set it up and, heads I win, tails you lose situation, right? Like, it doesn't matter whether he picks the light or the dark. I win both ways.
As Moradin says, it is very hard to lose when you're playing both sides of the game. I also like that he's in two places at once for this whole thing. He's talking to Rand on the one hand and to Moraine on the other. Like, he can multitask.
Which, again, makes me think that he's been sort of stuck inside that seal the whole time, and that's, a version of him, and then he's projecting it out.
Mm-hmm. He's not
through the dreams.
That's, again, why I think her ice spears wouldn't have done any good, because he's, just photons and force fields, so to speak.
I think that's an interesting... We both know you can't escape this place without his help. Well, then why did you bring him? Like...
I was wondering about that. Like, well, what if you just didn't... With the dragon thing, what if you just killed him as a baby or put him in a box for his whole life? Like, then he could never approach this crisis point? Or the Dark One is inevitably going to get out and...
I think that's the truth. This is just a matter of time. I think he's trying to hurry it up right now. He's trying to, but over time, I have to assume the Dark One would eventually break out, with or without the Dark One.
With or without the dragon, yeah. It's a perplexing, quantum entangled thing that I don't know. Especially because it's like, if Moraine kills him, that implies that it would keep the Dark One locked away, but clearly that wouldn't work.
I think it's more like better luck next time, right? Like, kill him for now.
Be a next time, right? I like that she pulled out her knife that she hasn't used since episode 1. I'm digging the fact that the knife is the first thing we see her use in episode 1. She puts it into the sheath and now she's taking it out. I like that part. I just don't understand the reasoning behind it.
The one thing is that I know that scene had to have been filmed post-COVID and then inserted at the beginning, because I don't think she has that knife in some of the early scenes. I think it's one of those things where they just filmed her. Because same thing with the Angreal. Like, the Angreal and the knife are not things we saw until this episode. So I want to say they filmed that opening scene and then dropped it in at the beginning.
I can see that.
We do know there was
a
different opening scene written. Gitara Moroso's prophecy was actually the original scene as it was written.
I would have preferred that. I loved the suiting up scene, but I really wanted the foretelling. The other cool thing here is just, she's like, okay, so I just suffered the most soul-crushing, life-ending pain in my life, but I'm going to deal with that later. I'm going to pull out my knife and keep fighting, right? She's such a blue, such a warrior that she's like, I can put that whole pain aside until this battle is done and just keep on fighting. She's so badass.
So at that point, it's dark. The wall has been overrun.
It's been hours and the light is fading with no end in sight. It's very dark, literally and figuratively.
So we're all agreeing he didn't survive that, right?
Well, have you seen The Expanse? Because that's how they ended one episode. Remember with the kid who's with the detective, and then they open the next episode with, he's actually not dead because his carotid artery was not... I assume he's dead, but the fact that he didn't even get his sword out properly before getting killed makes me want him to come crawling out of the rubble. And
also the way he just looks like he clearly has a chance to look up. It's not like it's insta-death, despite what looks like a sword through his heart pinning him to the wall.
Yeah, it looks like a sternum crusher for sure. But somebody has to survive the gap. There has to be a couple of soldiers that come crawling out of the rubble at the opening of the next season, I would think. I'm assuming he's dead, but I wouldn't be particularly shocked if they decided to have him miracle survive. Also, he's cutting the Egwene's throat exactly where Moraine is cutting his throat in real life. It's literally the same thing. That was a good Trolloc shot. Yeah, there you can see how the ring is on his hand. See, it's only around the 3 fingers, and there's an extra loop on the pointer to hold it on. Interesting that he feels the need to use the power to do this. If this was a dream shard, he doesn't need the power to manipulate what's happening.
But I think he's, well... Yeah, I mean, in the same way that, like, Egwene still uses the power in the dream all the time. Right? It's a tool you know and you use. You know, like, just because you can imagine it. It's like different tools for different things. He wants to be seen cutting her throat. But yeah, I'm gonna have to get... That ring is actually pretty cool. So it's like a 3-finger ring.
I want that more than a
1-finger
modern
ring.
Aes Sedai ring.
Totally. Also, the hands around her neck is this weird, like... That's the way he was attacking Min. So, like, here he's putting the hands around their neck to try and stop the bleeding, but, like... Think like what Semrog did to him, where he tried to put the hand around her neck to kill her, and that was a forced thing to do, right?
Ooh, like, I didn't even think of that. I was just having my usual annoyance at how all these shots in every movie ever, it's like the most unchronologically satisfying sequence of cuts, which makes sense in this particular context, but it doesn't in every other movie. So it just, the Min thing, the levels of foreshadowing, possibly.
Now, that to me feels very Dream Shard, because healing leaves blood. That was a reversing time thing. That was very meta. That
was how I was like, well, this is clearly following some of the rules of dreaming. Even if it's not Intel Elrond proper, like, this is how you know it's dream space.
So that pause was very long. That was a many, many second pause for a show, where Rand is thinking... How do I beat him? Mm-hmm. I don't think he's trying to make it real at this point.
No.
Right? Because at this point he knows Egwene's not real. He doesn't want to make it real. He's trying to get as much information out of this man as he can. Yeah,
at this point, I knew that Rand knew what was going on. I just wasn't sure before here when that switch had happened, if there had been a switch or if he'd been in it aware the whole time. Like, but at this point I was like, he's drawing you in, you dumbass Forsaken. I didn't
Dark
think
Friends with instructions to open. It's just not the Dark Friend they were expecting?
I didn't think so, because, well... If they were Dark Friends, that explains their absolutely shit strategy of opening the door and then questioning the credentials of the person with the passcode. I thought they were just being stupid, but low-level Dark Friends being attacked by higher-level Dark Friendery than they expected makes them less of dumbasses and more just bad people. And I mean, we know there are Dark Friends in the fortress, and obviously Ingtar is one of them, but it would make sense for there to be more than one. And then them getting killed so as to not betray the fact that they were Dark Friends. Sure.
That's where I went with this, rather than them just being like, oh, we're in the middle of a siege, someone has a password, let's open the door and then figure out who they are. Right? Like, I think these two are Dark Friends, but Thane wasn't the Dark Friend they expected on the other side.
I like that better than people tasked with guarding the city don't understand Security 101. I like that better.
The Horn of Blood. At that point, I was like, what? The Horn of Valir? Like, yeah, I was like, okay, so that's a big change. Which means, okay, why didn't you tell Moraine that? Why not give... I guess they left unexpectedly. But I was like, why did you not give it to the dragon before we went? Like, if it's for the dragon, why not give it to the dragon? Why not pull it out when Moraine's like, I'm here with the dragon. We're going to go fight the last battle.
Well, because she never said she was there with the dragon. She took off in the middle of the night after Rand was like, it's me. So, but I don't understand the statement of, like, without it, there's no hope for them. Like, there's clearly Borderlander prophecy around the Horn that we aren't privy to that makes all of this make sense. There's a sequence of events that they've had held onto from a prophecy for hundreds of years. We know that they do that in the books. I'm really hoping that during the hunt for the Horn in season 2, we get some like campfire side info drops about like exactly what's going on here, or Loyal, chimes in at some point, because it's very There's a lot of holes here that will make sense once we know more.
So, what, 10, 20,000 made it through, or left. How many initially attacked? Did they say 50,000, 100,000?
I don't remember, but it has to have been because the Faldarans spent all day just slaughtering them at the wall for there to still be 20,000 getting through. I mean, and granted, Nynaeve might be exaggerating because she's, standing on the ground with no military experience, but it's a lot of Trollocs if 1,000 used to be a big force and now you can have a whole day killing and still have 10,000 come pouring through. Like, that's a lot.
One thing I will say, it does seem like everybody is, when the Aes Sedai channeled and linked up, it was very much like, here you go. This is very much like, ow, ow, you don't need to take that so hard. Like, it's clear that she is not as smooth as the Aes Sedai are at bringing people into the circle. Yeah,
I thought it was interesting, but not in a way that makes me mad that they're changing the rules for linking in this way. Because she is untrained. Well, she's not untrained, but she's less trained than an Aes Sedai. And she's using clearly a slightly different technique to slightly different ends than what we saw before. So I like the idea that there's different ways that linking can go. And that there isn't a smoothing buffer is like, it's an interesting way to distinguish what Aes Sedai training means. It's not just fancy clothes and a pension and a ring. It's also like technique. That's cool. And I mean, it reminds me a lot of the Bowl of the Winds linking scene that we did in the podcast not that long ago. There's a lot of how it felt for Elaine in that prose. I feel like they brought a lot of that visually here, which is cool.
Because that's really the first big linking that any of the Supergirls go through is the Bowl of the Winds. They don't link up before that.
Yeah, they talk about it a few times, but they never actually do it. Yeah. And I love the visuals of the way that it goes into all of them. And then when she turns around and it like swirls around her like ink in water or something, like I really, really like the visuals of the power in this bringing them together way.
And then you can see the difference in power level in terms of the light coming from Nynaeve and Egwene versus coming from the other two.
Yeah, the only part I don't like about that is where Amelisa's like, oh my god, it's so much more power than I've ever had. Give me more. I'm like, girl, pace yourself. Like, you just got powered up harder than you've ever been. Like, do you think maybe that's enough? Like,
I mean, but it's the cocaine analogy, right? The only thing that cocaine makes you want is more cocaine. And she's out of control. She had such a jump in power because she wasn't even as powerful as the lowest Aes Sedai. So, and she went from that to literally two of the most powerful ever, plus a little more. Like, she is essentially going from, like, doing a small bump to doing just, like, a mountain of cocaine all at once.
Yeah, and I mean, she's clearly already starting to lose her grip on reality, right? I mean, I kind of don't like how their bodies are all shaking, but I also kind of really like how their bodies are all shaking. Like, I have strong feelings both ways on that.
And she walked out onto this field expecting to die.
And expecting the rest of them to die with her. So that's fair. The cocaine analogy really, really works for her.
Especially all that white powder flowing into her. Like,
yeah, and it does a number on your heart.
Look at the number of threads going into Nynaeve.
Yeah, I know you think Egwene's got a lot, and then you look at Nynaeve, and you're like, oh my.
So it's scenes like this that make me go, okay, what? Like, look at the pause. It's blur. It's motion blur. It's bad CGI and motion blur.
It's affordable and quick.
And it doesn't, like, this compared to the scene of the Trollocs running in the forest in episode 1, before they got to... or episode 2, I guess, before they got to Shadow Logoth. Like, this is clearly inferior. Clearly, they're using darkness to hide bad CGI, like in Battle of the Bastards. Like, come on, I get it's a COVID thing, but I want the last battle of the season to be more impressive than the first battle of the season. You have to build up to it, not fall backwards into it.
Yeah, it seems fair. But we have to they need to do better, because there had better not be another fucking pandemic of unexpected proportion in the course of this thing happening. If that happens, the seals are actually breaking if that happens, I swear.
Also, why give us that shot of the axe that he's never going to use? He looks over at, like, oh, a weapon that I could possibly grab. No.
And why would he think of using a weapon on Patton Fane? He doesn't know he's a baddie yet. Like, nothing to do with that axe in this sequence makes sense to me.
So that's pretty much the flame in the void, right? Empty yourself of all emotion. Push it into the flame.
Yeah, he describes it slightly differently, but it's recognizable.
And so, yeah, turning desire, making desire what you have with the one power. This is why I say this is more of a soft magic system than in the books. In the books, you have to know what you want, you have to construct the weave, and then you have to use it. Rand has some instinctual knowledge going on, and there's some things you can do as your first channeling. But his whole, all you have to do is embrace the one power and want something enough, and it'll happen, that's a soft magic system.
My pushback? I think she's lying. I think he's deliberately leading Rand into not the correct way of approaching channeling. Because he's pushing Rand to be a selfish demigod. Like, to turn it all... When he said turn it into want, it makes more sense to me that that's Ishii trying to mislead Rand than that they've just completely thrown out one of the coolest magic systems ever.
My counterpoint is Egwene. That's exactly what she does with Nynaeve.
Because
she wants
she's
to heal her,
desperate.
she embraces it.
Like, I don't think this is the entirety of it. I really don't think that this is the entirety of the magic system. They just can't give us the complete system in season 1 when the channelers are all flailing babies.
Interesting that up to this point, this is all clean. I don't see any taint on this power right now.
Yeah, we saw it with Logain that it always started clean and then the blackness came onto it, but this takes a lot longer. I don't know.
Maybe it's because it's his early touching that it takes a little longer for the darkness to creep in.
Well, we saw the darkness swirl in his 2 flashbacks of knocking the door down and protecting Egwene. The blackness comes right in there. So maybe it's also just because time flows weird in dream space. Maybe that. Or maybe they just really wanted to emphasize it. I don't know.
That's also a weird line. Let the power flow through you like an open sieve. Like, for male channeling, there's very much this fighting the one power. Whereas the women accept it and let it pass through them.
Which, again, makes me think that Ishii is not giving Rand the best 101 lesson that he could be.
It makes me wonder if he's telling him to embrace the true power from the Dark One.
That could be it, too.
The reason why it's a different way of embracing the power is it's not necessarily the one power, it's the true power. And that's how he's able to break the Quendiar seal.
Yeah, or maybe it's because he's also in the dream and, like, there's ways to use the dream space to, like, further emphasize what he's doing. If you make it more of a want thing and more of a surrender thing, then whatever's in your subconscious will drive what happens to a degree that's not normal or appropriate for channeling.
Well, that's why I see Teleron Riyadh as a much more soft magic system, because what you want matters. You can... And maybe somehow they're combining those two, that he's in a Teleron Riyadh type situation, but using the one power, and that's how his desires are creating the result that he wants.
And it's really a theme with the dark to place desire and want and personal goals over the natural order of things, over the agency of others. Like, that's a very dark one way to look at things. So... yeah.
There. He says, don't fight it. Rand stops fighting it, and the power turns dark.
Because he's maybe opening up more completely, like...
Or it's the true power. Neither does Rand. That's the thing. Like, you can't... That's why Ishii's messing with her mind. He's like, Rand doesn't even know what he's doing, so how can you? Like, I'm going to trick him to think he's doing the right thing. What, are you going to kill him? The right thing's going to be the wrong thing. The timing on that. All right, we've got it. Bad guys, scrap.
Yeah. Had to be.
I really like this actor. I think he stole some of the scenes he was in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he did a really good job with his tiny bit of screen time. So the case is smaller than I thought it would be. I thought the horn was going to be bigger. I mean, the case is described as bigger. They really shrank that down.
They did shrink it down. They did. Because, like, the case itself is described as something only Loyal can pick up and carry easily. So, I mean, that's clearly a much smaller case. The kazoo. Oh God. The kazoo Valier.
It's not a doo-woo. It's a doot.
All the heroes show up in a clown car and pile out one at a time.
Yes. I love Rand's face here. This is someone who is getting too fucking high and is like, oh God, I took more than I expected. Like, that's what his face has. He's struggling to maintain himself and to not explode. And it's also the most exhilarated and on top of the world feeling he's ever had. Like, this is just, Yosha has read RJ's descriptions of channeling. It's obvious in his delivery here that he is Rand from the book in his head right now.
Major props to Yosha. Where he didn't get to shine in a lot of the other episodes, he really did in this one.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
You notice all of those weaves coming in from the outside, those are going to Egwene and Nynaeve. And then from there, they're going to Annalisa.
Yeah, the other two are like, they're lost in the glow of the power coming from the other two. It's powerful. And I also love that Egwene is actually channeling for her life while Rand is channeling for his life. That, like, her and Nynaeve, but particularly Egwene, like, they are just as enmeshed in this mind-blowing, more power than they've ever felt, like, battle for reality at the same time. It's like, yes, they are both critical to saving the world.
No, and I love the parallels between the two of them. I think they should... I hope the show does a lot to increase the parallel journeys of the two of them through gaining power, their imprisonment in PTSD, their politics. You can really make Egwene and Rand as the two main protagonists and sort of center around them as the yin and yang of the Wheel of Time.
That's a male-female dualism that I would love to see them lean into more. Like, dial back the one power, gender essentialism, bring up the women are literally as much of heroes as men. Very here for it.
Nice area effect spell. Like,
yes.
The rolling lightning and thunder, that was cool. It's a rolling ring of lightning and thunder. It's very Dumai's Wells. That was cool.
And yeah.
I will say the Trollocs exploding into goo, not the best CGI.
No, but it's cool. A strong precursor to Dumai's Wells. And I also love the part where they all have to lift their arms and bring them down together. Like, she has, because of the way that the motions are involved in channeling, like, and they are linked with her, like, they all do it together. She has a little bit of control over their bodies in that way. I thought that was a cool tweak.
That was cool. A little weirdness here. Like, it seemed like they destroyed all the Trollocs out for a long time, and then these guys get close, and there's, like, individual lightning strikes.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how that worked, but yeah, battles are messy.
It was a little uncertain exactly how the Trollocs were advancing, but this makes it look like they got really close.
So yeah, there's a lot going on here. Like, we've got Egwene and Nynaeve both having that same exhilarated, top of the world, high as shit, also horrified thing. I love the fact that she just dies quietly. It's so stoic. Like, it's so Malkieri for her to just uncomplainingly just give herself to the cause. It's sad, but...
And at this point, it's sad, but it's still, you can argue, necessary. That they're still killing Trollocs. You know, that drawing the power from her is necessary to kill as many Trollocs as possible. They're still coming.
And she doesn't complain. She doesn't cry out. She just gives herself. It's so Malkier.
But at that point, they're all dead. And Annalisa needs to stop.
Yeah, she needs to burn up one. Maybe two. The old woman's definitely right on the edge there. But yeah, they've basically won the battle right around that point.
And then Rand changes what he's doing. At this point, he's like, I'm not just doing what you want. I'm channeling into the Angreal that's actually in my pocket. Little fat man in my pocket. and I'm going to turn it back on by Alzamon.
Yeah, Moraine's like, well, you have to be in danger of your life, and then the adrenaline will get you to do it. He's like, well, Balsamon put me in a soft room and gave me a milkshake. Like, I'm not in fear for my life right now. How am I going to get the power? And then he's like, okay, I think I've hit the power point she was talking about. I should probably do the Angreal thing that I can barely remember because I'm so cracked out of my mind right now.
And I think that's totally no, stop, please. Oh no. Yeah, like, yeah. Because, like, he could stop him if he wanted to.
I mean, yeah, I was taken in by all their performances. I believed what they were handing me way too much.
I think they're faking each other out on multiple levels. And you have a lot of unreliable narrator going on here.
Yeah, that's fair.
What did you think about the fact that looks like the power going into it is pure and it glows a pure green?
I don't know. I'm very curious if it survives this event. I really want to know, and I'm assuming that we will get some kind of answer at the beginning of season 2 or whenever we see Rand again. Either he'll think about how he doesn't have it or he'll pull it out of his pocket and he'll still have it. Because I suspect I want it to be like the pool in Eye of the World, and that he will have consumed this thing in this massive seal shattering moment.
This like burning a candle.
Yeah. I don't know why it's green. Maybe it's a nod to the Green Man. Like, there's a green little elf thing.
Or just green is good lighting it up. Maybe like jade, because I feel like jade is very like a good luck thing, and so like it looks very like lit up jade.
Yeah, and I mean, and then it emphasizes that it's not just the power illuminating it; it has its own properties that are illuminating.
Yeah, and that's how Moraine is able to see it. She sees it lighting up. She doesn't see the power going into it. No, please don't attack me. Okay, so there is dark power going into that.
Yeah, there is. There is so much cool stuff about this. I love that he's talking in the dream, but not in reality. I love that he wakes up once everything really starts to come together. And I said this when we were doing the Tarvalin After Dark charity thing, but I want to say it again here. I love that Rand saves the world while passed out with a knife to his throat by respecting the free will and autonomy of a woman. Like, that it's heartbreaking that he's like, the fact that she's in love with me means I know it's false. That is heartbreaking. But that it's not even her, I can be a hero too. It's, I can be an independent human being. And that is how he resolves it. Even though Balsamon wins, Rand still makes the right choice for that reason. And I love Rafe for making that so on the nose.
Yeah, that's just the clue for him, is I would never, she would, I know what she wants and this isn't what she wants. So this is a false reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so good.
And I really like this spinning, cutting.
Yeah,
like, really well done to show the two things happening at the same time in the same place, bringing the dream world into it. Like, more of this, please.
Yes.
This has been paused many times.
Oh, God.
The truly interesting thing about this, yes, you've got all the power flowing into Rand, dark, light, really cool. 7 seals. But if you look at the feet of Baalzamon, you see black threads tying him to the seal. And
they're moving a little bit. Yeah.
He is connected. Yeah. And this is where the speculation that maybe that's what he wants. He needs the seal to be broken to be free.
He's sort of held in a 1 foot raised, stepping through kind of spot, and he needs something to break in order to get out of that limbo.
Shattering happens first, right? And go back.
I love how it all sucks in, and he stops almost at the end. It's just...
So yeah, he puts all the power into the Angreal first, and then he sort of stops pulling it in. Notice, look at the ground. The black part of the seal is almost completely gone.
Oh, yeah.
Boom, explosion coming out first. So here the seal is shattered.
Yeah. And then as it closes on his face, it looks like a flame.
And then, you get that just like a little bit of a smile.
He's got just a little smile. Grin, and it closes down on his face like the flame of Tarvalin shape. And And when he's grinning too, I was like, really? Did the actor not think that was an important moment of defeat? Why is he so unupset? And then everyone's like, he wanted it. I'm like, oh. Duh.
And then we had the shattering right on the point where he was, with 8 spokes out from the shattering to match the 8 stars, 8 points around the seal.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the seal itself, and the crack goes right through the middle, roughly where the division was, but I'm not seeing the 2 halves.
You can barely see them. There's a sort of a vertical... The black bump is right under Rand, and then the white bump, the tail sort of goes down.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
There's so much going on there, and they give us so few frames to examine it with.
Right. But that very much, like, that crack centered on where Baalzamon was, cuts across the whole seal.
Yeah.
I don't know. You tell us.
Yeah. He's like,
that's the question.
What you said. You told me put him back. I put him back. What more do you want?
She's like, no, you didn't, you stupid boy.
She's like, can you give me some proof? Did you back that up? Like,
and Ishamael is not dead. We haven't seen a body.
No, not even a rotting corpse yet. No, not at all.
A little bit of the bat from the dream.
What was with that bat? What did that mean? What did that serve? Who is it? Are we in a dream? Is Fane actually a bat? Are Fades bats? Are bats actually Dragcar? The only thing I'm sure about in the scene is that the thunder has got to be the bat. That's that point in the battle. That's our timestamp. But everything else I don't understand. And he's apparently been wandering through the halls for like 20 minutes and yet is also close enough to hear screams of battle and get back there in like 45 seconds. He tried to follow Fane down the hallway and Fane circled around and started attacking. It was weird. And why did Fane walk up to where the horn was, catch Perrin's eye, and then go wandering off down the hallway? I assume he was looking for the horn. And why did he not just got the Fades? He went and got the Fades. He had the Fades with him already. He walked in with the Fades. Like, why not just attack the party then and there? Like, I want to believe that part of the reason why this is so clumsy is because of Barney leaving and them having a very important character for Fane horn stuff, like, not here. But all I understand is that Fane got the horn. That's the only thing I understand about this whole fucking scene. Perrin running. Sort of a plain outfit for Perrin, too, actually, now that I'm looking at it. Like, boots, pants, red shirt, like... Yeah. For all the costuming they do, they put him in a very plain suit. Yeah. Wonder why. So, yeah. Looks like, in this scene, Loyal's clearly stabbed but alive. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Fane gives him a couple more stabs to be sure, but... He's loyal. He is a tree person. You're gonna need more to take him down than a cursed dagger. And I think that's led to some speculation that a lot of season 2 is going to be questing to find a cure, that maybe the dagger poisoned him somehow, and that they're trying to find a cure for the dagger poison. That's definitely my theory, is that the dagger should have killed him outright if he was a human, but because he's an Ogier, they get some grace period, but that's going to be the hunt for the horn. And the dagger and Fane is going to be because you can't let Loyal die rather than Matt. Because you need that urgency. You need the throw everything over the side. We have to save a friend urgency. And Loyal is best candidate, I think. And Uno appears to still be doing okay, even though he was cut badly. I didn't see Uno. I saw a blonde-haired man with 2 eyes. Oh, that's a good point. I thought that was Uno. He's got similar hair, but he's got 2 eyeballs very distinctly. Yeah, good call. Sorry, I totally, I saw Uno. I was like, that's Uno. But yeah, no, you're right. That's not. And that's canonical, too, that, I can't let go thing. Is it? I feel like that's that whole... not necessarily, just because she's out of control, right? There's too much power flowing. I feel like there's a point where, Rand can't let go easily of the power. Yeah, we only see the women ever talk about it as a hazard. But you're right, we do get that as an experience within Rand's head, for sure.
And then this old woman burns out after she's like, I can't let go. So clearly at that point, like, if she'd been able to let go earlier, I do think the one woman had to die.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Again, this is what brings me back to, I think, the bold wins. The whole, I can feel everything, the whole world. I can feel the stones. I can feel the air. Like, that I'm connected to the world type situation is something she's feeling.
Only in this case, instead of using a powerful artifact and a full circle of 13, she's using Nynaeve and Egwene. Because they're that powerful. That
was also a weird thing, that Nynaeve was able to pull the power into herself and somehow act as a buffer, basically, for Egwene.
It doesn't make sense on a lot of levels at all, except with respect to her personality. The sheer force of Nynaeve will make reality what she wants it to be is the only, like, I mean, if she's trying to, like, create, like, a new buffer, like, Egwene should burn out first because she's weaker. It's just Nynaeve's force of will. Just, that's what it is.
Not really sure, because she can't really insert herself. The only thing I'm thinking is she's inserts herself between Egwene and Amalisa, so that Amalisa can't pull power from Egwene. All that power has to be pulled from Nynaeve first before it goes to Egwene.
Which is a set of power rules that don't exist.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, because the physical location shouldn't matter, but maybe you're saying something about the way she grabs her arms, and that way she, creates a circuit.
I mean, that's definitely what they're telling us, but we don't have the rule set to make that make sense, aside from Nynaeve gets what Nynaeve wants.
Again, soft magic system. You force of will, want something enough, it happens.
But it's also Nynaeve, so...
I'm willing to forgive occasionally. I'm willing to forgive healing with Nynaeve.
Yeah.
That's about it, though.
This is preventing the need for healing. It's prophylactic.
And that's some foreshadowing for Amerlin Seat. We all stand before you. We all stand with you. Like, that's Egwene as the Amerlin Seat that she's sort of pledging her allegiance to right there.
Oh. I hadn't seen it like that. I was just caught up in the absolute horror of Egwene's experience, like watching Nynaeve like crisp over her. I didn't even see the foreshadowing, but I think, it's part of the Two Rivers culture, but I like the idea that it's like, no, we all women who can channel, well, at least those who are associated with the White Tower, will stand with you. I dig that. I dig that a lot.
And of course, we get the whole... In this situation, burning out is a physical burning, right? It's not necessarily a severing of the one power.
Yeah, it burns your whole soul.
It burns your actual body.
Yeah, not just the part of you that can channel, but the part of you that exists at all.
And so clearly, because she is less powerful than Egwene and Nynaeve, she burned out all the way through. Like, her physical self burned out from her eyes back, her whole head was just on fire. Nynaeve, I think what they're trying to show is that she's just badly burned.
Yeah. It just didn't advance as far. Like, how horrifying for Egwene. Like, the whole battlefield's covered in bits of Trolloc. All her companions have burned out, and she literally has what she thinks is the body of her mentor just, like, pinning her to the ground. Like, does it get more horrifying than that?
And it is a bit of a fake-out death.
Well, yes.
Which I'm not a huge fan of. Because in this moment, we get so little, but it's like, okay, Nynaeve's dead. Like, at this cut.
It was very... Yeah.
So I'm trying to get the dagger paused.
Not gonna happen.
Very short. Not gonna happen.
It's bloody.
That is...
He puts his knife
it's
away
bloody, and it's the dagger from Shadow Logoth, which last we saw was in Lan's hands.
Yeah. That is the last we saw it. I mean, there was Egwene making that comment about, I bet Matt went back for that bloody dagger, which implies that they were told that it was left in the White Tower. Which, how did it get into Fane's hands? There's a story there.
That's a scene. Yeah, there's a story I'd love to see. Like, you can't show us the dagger and be like, oh yeah, he just picked it up on the street where they left it. Like,
I'm guessing that'll be a flashback. We got to learn that there's rot in the tower. Possibly through him.
I'm no longer depending on flashbacks to fill in anything. I was depending on that in season 1, and they gave me nothing. So. Also, don't put your dagger away bloody.
I know, right? Like, have some respect for your cursed objects.
Seriously, I love this. Like, I really love it when they wipe it first and then put it away. Also, that like selling lanterns was his main thing, rather than like the wool and the tobacco and anything else. Pins, like pots, pans, like
lanterns. Yeah, this whole mustache twirling monologue is like, Fane has been so much more than a mustache twirling villain so far. Why is he taking this time to gloat and explain the plan?
So only the second mention of ta'veren we've gotten, right? Because we got that one mention in where Moraine's like, we've heard about ta'veren in the town, and I think we complained about it then. We were like, why? What makes them ta'veren? How
did rumors get out? So on and so forth. And then he says, all 5 of you. And he assumes that Moraine saw all 5. And so it's like, even the dark doesn't know how in the dark the light is. Like, the information about the information isn't even right.
Well, there's a difference between the 4 candidates for the Dragon Reborn and the 5 ta'veren.
Well, but Moraine had rumors of 4 ta'veren. And he's saying 5 ta'veren, so it's like, the unreliable narrators go all the way down.
This is the shot that we thought was Shadar Logoth, and we were like, why are they lanterns in Shadar Logoth?
It's because they recycled the set, and it's actually Tor Valon. I also don't like that Fane is making the actual argument that we need balance. Like, you get that logic out of your mouth, you dirty dark friend.
Right, because he's not even... Where's his Mashadar? Like, because right now he seems like a pawn of the dark. There is no indication, I guess, other than the dagger, that he's something else other than the Dark One's pawn.
Yeah, I mean, he's commanding Trollocs or Fades instead of being commanded by them. And I mean, I like the part where Fane is taking on more of the philosophical discussion from Ishii, but I don't like him making a good argument. I don't want him to be making the correct sound argument that actually resolves a memory of light. Like, no, you can't. Don't. I also think it's hilarious that they sent a force of Trollocs to slaughter the village, and somehow they weren't. Well, I guess they dragged Nynaeve out of there. So, fine. I guess that's...
Yeah, when she thought, I thought the Trolloc thought I was dead. That's a good reason why the Trolloc didn't kill her. It was actually trying to take her because it knew she was one of the 5.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have that much trust in Trolloc slaughtering, so...
Yeah, it seems like a pretty risky move to be like, yes, don't kill these 5 people. And I don't think you need the heroes to have anyone turn to the shadow in order to have balance. So I guess I'm okay with Fane having the right argument for the wrong reasons. I guess I can live with it. I do think that they're going to have our characters wrestling more with the potential to go to the shadow more than just Matt being cursed. I think we're going to have more genuine conflict in the hearts of Perrin and Matt in particular. And Rand, obviously, because Darth Rand.
But, I mean, I would be upset if they turned Matt to the shadow. They made
they can't.
The darkness inside of him, like, quote, with Moraine, like, I'm just... Yeah, give him an evil arc, but you can't have him go evil.
No, we're not. We're going to have, our Ingtar character, our Varen character, who do the whole no man is so lost to the shadow, he can't come again to the light. We're going to have someone we care about do that. I don't for a second buy it's going to be one of our Emond's Field 5. Like, they're going to be tempted, but they can't have one actually go over to the shadow. That would be...
I mean, then it changes fundamentally who Matt is. The good guy who likes to complain. Right? Like...
Yeah, though there is that part in the first book when Matt says, well, if we pretend to go along, we can get away later. I could buy a fake out. I mean, Rand goes along with Ishii in this episode. Like, I could buy one of them playing along, but never actually going over in their heart. Like, if they go over in their heart, I'm going to be crying in a blanket for a very long time.
Why can't they go back to Faldora?
I'm waiting for the battle to conclude. It's still early hours of the morning. And
again, that they're generalizing LTT's madness to be everyone's madness. Seeing voices in your head, seeing somebody else, killing the people you love. That was a way that LTT went mad. That isn't how everybody goes mad.
But it is the shorthand that everyone culturally holds on to, that you'll kill everyone around you, rot while you're alive, hear voices, like, because LTT made such an impression, that is the top level symptoms that everyone identifies. But yeah, I
thought that was a good little, you'll work out a way, and then she says he's gone. Like, that was clever. I thought they did a good job with the Aes Sedai lies there.
Mm-hmm. And it's not hard. And I mean, Min even told him he doesn't make it back, so it's not like he's asking her to do something that a prophet hasn't already seen happens. Peace.
Yeah, she'll be back.
He'll be back.
Violence is not the dark.
And this, I loved that, because that is the false equivalence that Perrin wrestles with. And that anyone who has ever had a thought about pacifism versus reality, like we have all run over that. Is violence inherently evil? And most of us come on the conclusion of no, there is such a thing as justified violence. But Fane is just getting into Perrin's head and setting up that false equivalence, making that conflict way more, he's framing it wrong. And it's a good villain move. Fane is back from mustache twirling and back into the territory I like for him to be at, where he's messing with their heads. Question: why does he not take Perrin in this moment? If they sent the Trollocs to pick the 5 up, why doesn't he take a prisoner right here? He's got 2 Fades and a pacifist who doesn't have any military training. Why not just take him?
Right. Yeah. Right there with you. Why explain your whole plan and be like, yes, you're important. Bye.
Don't do the evil villain monologue. It's overdone. So notice the light has changed. It's dawn now. It's been hours.
Well, it took Lan a while to get there.
I like how she's just sitting there, just like, I guess I'll die now. Like, she's not making any moves to get out of there, to take care of herself. She's just like, I'm going to sit here until I die or something happens, which further reinforces that she's been stilled and has the blank despair.
But also, she's been building up to this moment for 20 years. I mean, her whole life was finding Rand and bringing him to the Dark One, and now he's just like, cool, peace out. You know, like, what does she do at this point? Like, what's her mission now?
That's true. It's like when you win your medal at the Olympics and then the next day you wake up depressed, like, because you don't have anything to strive for. There's a bit of that, sure. And so Lan being like, you're alive, is like, yeah, you would know if she died. Like, masking the bond wouldn't prevent him from knowing that she died.
I almost think it seems like it does in this case, that, like, masking the bond seems to be completely cutting it off. Because I think that's what's going to happen, is essentially his bond got cut in this moment. Because she masked him and cannot unmask him without the power, which essentially means he's completely cut off from her.
Right, but he's walking up there being like, you're alive, and it's like,
Right, he would have had the...
Yeah, the warder rage would have hit him if she died.
Well, he said, you're all right.
I thought he said you're alive.
Wounded. I thought he said you're all right.
Oh, well, whatever. It doesn't matter.
No, yeah. You're right. He says you're alive.
You're all right would have made a lot more sense.
Very I said I lie. There. Come on,
true.
Lan.
Very true.
Pick that one up. Yeah, yeah.
I assume he would go into a rage. I mean, the bond being masked is different than the bond being broken. Like, I don't believe that you could mask it and die, and he'd be like, oh, the bond is still there. Like, I don't buy that.
In the books, being stilled severs the bond, right? I mean, hell, Suan's warder nearly keels over from the shock of her being stilled and the bond being severed.
When Satala burns herself out, her warder dies from the shock of her being burned out. So... yeah,
So it seems to support the idea that she wasn't stilled.
It does.
Like, there's everything with the warder bond supports that she wasn't stilled and was just shielded. The fact that he's like, you're a lot, you know.
The only thing that makes me doubt that is that Moiraine is not going to have her face crumple and cry into Lan's arms like a baby unless she's truly lost the power. This isn't resolving for me.
Well, the way it resolves for me is they're changing the rules around Aes Sedai and warders and what the power does.
Sure. That's the only way to make it resolve. They can't fit it into book canon right now, so.
Super cool moment in their relationship. Where the hell, you know. Yeah. So there's, again, the want and wish. Put power into her and hope that she heals.
I think it's not that. I think what's going on here is that Egwene is getting too caught up in how she thinks channeling works. And when she drops all that and just wants it, that's when it actually works. That was how I interpreted that, is trying versus doing.
The behind-the-scenes stuff I saw seemed to imply that one of the reasons Nynaeve wanted Egwene to be her apprentice is that she was also naturally talented at healing, and this is the payoff for that. That's what they had in common, is this natural ability to heal. I don't like that as much, but that's what I seem to get from behind-the-scenes logic in his head, is like, hey, yeah, that's just what they had in common, is their ability to heal.
Well, I mean, she does get praised by the Yellows for being the kind of person that wants to heal something when she's getting her whole Amerlin thing in the tower. So, I mean, and she was going to be an apprentice to the Village Wisdom. Like, she would have had healing be the skill she learned the most. So, that's fine.
First time I saw it, I was very upset. It was my least favorite part of the season, right there.
Their hug is pretty good, though. The two of them have really good hugs.
Both from the fake out of thinking Nynaeve was dead and having her come back and having already pulled that in episode 4, and then that plus just Egwene knowing healing seems wrong to me. You know, it would have been cool. See him light up a pipe.
Ha! That would have been cool. I was just noticing it's dawn. He who leaves with the dawn. He who fucks the fuck off with the dawn. Also, where is he going? Is he going deeper into the Blight?
Looks like that way, yeah. I mean, it's hard to really tell, but if he's heading... Is he heading into the sunrise? So that's east.
What is he planning on doing? Where are we going to pick up with him?
I think he's heading to the waste.
He goes through the Blight, up and over the mountains, and then gets picked up in the waste like his mom did. Ooh, that would be interesting.
And that's how you bring the Aiel into this sooner.
Oh. Ooh, that'd be cool. I mean, it'd be weird, but I mean, at this point, like, I'm just like, do whatever you want with the plot, but oh, that's how he gets to the waste. That would be interesting.
Because it doesn't look like he's heading back to the Gap.
No, he looks back at the eye and then turns, so I don't know. Chunk of quartz. That's what that is.
No, it's Quendiar. She just said that.
It's micaceous quartz.
It means that Rand was channeling the true power, not the one power, because the one power can't break Quendiar. And yeah, it also, she's like, yeah, it means we just released the Dark One.
It means that I just spent all my resources and my life's energy, and that wasn't even the actual battle that I thought it was. God damn it.
You think there are 13 books left?
I know, I'm like, it's the end of this first season. Mm-hmm. I thought the episode was going to be done there. I genuinely thought they weren't going to cliffhanger us.
I actually expected a cliffhanger. I expected that to be the end, and then I expected a cut to a Forsaken or with the cold opens, Rafe is taking a clue from Jordan with the prologues. And I feel like the cut to something drastic about to happen is also... Well, I guess that's not so much a cliffhanger. That's not something Jordan does a lot. He likes to end his books on some...
Yeah, he ends his books on solid notes. But that's not good TV. So I screamed so hard for this.
Yeah, as soon as I saw the far western coast, I was like, Sean-Chan. Ships, there was no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, no. And also, this looks like California. To the northern California coast.
/ Oregon coast.
Yeah. It's a steep continental drop-off, tall cliffs. I mean, there's a lot of cool geology there.
Big, wide, open beaches.
The basalt, headland type things. Yeah.
That could be Haystack Rock in the background.
Yeah, totally. I love her dress also. It's so cute.
The seagulls coming in, they're following the ships. Because
this is a force of nature. This is a disaster allegory. The birds make no sense, but I don't care because...
Really? I thought the birds, they're clearly shore birds, right?
Yeah,
but if there are enough... they're seagulls. If there are enough ships, could they not just follow the ships and land on them occasionally? I imagine this flock of seagulls has flown with the fleet the whole way from Sean-Chan.
I did not think about that.
That there's so many ships, so many people fishing and stuff like that the seagulls basically treat it like another bit of land that they can just follow and fly over.
They are opportunistic fuckers. Seagulls are. I like that better than slapping random natural disaster allegory onto it without any care at all. I'm going to accept that headcanon.
That's sort of what I thought, is that the seagulls were coming from Shan-Chan with the boats, and where they were trying to show just how many boats there were, because all of these seagulls were just following the fleet.
All right, I'll take it. The red sails!
Great music. Red sails.
God, so
not square.
Good. But they're ribbed. They're red and they're ribbed. That's 2 out of 3 details.
Ribbed for your pleasure. I do think that if they were square, it looked like the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, and the Conqueror, Settler.
We've got enough colonial stuff going on.
I think it's a little too on the nose for the square sails.
Dial it back.
Okay, look at the 2 people at the top in what are those skull masks?
Yeah.
Didn't even notice those last time.
I'm like, are those Death Watch guards?
Oh, that makes sense. Death Watch guards.
Because they literally watch through a mask of death.
Of death, yeah.
There's so much to pick apart in these costumes. Also, I feel like there's elephant tusks making all those spikes on the boat.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah.
Shred it. Sorry.
Shred it tusks. And then Suldam and Damane.
That's so the California coast. I love this music. It's so scary.
I noticed their backs sort of look like carapaces.
Yes.
Sort of the way that jacket is a carapace.
Tile aesthetic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They don't have it on the helmets, but the tattoos as well.
I think some of the other soldiers might have helmets like that are in the background. Maybe. I'm not sure.
And you talked about how we're getting a little bit of the Shara, the tattooed ones, mixed in here. Yeah,
it's not the same pattern as with the Sharans. And I couldn't find any real world pictures of tattoos that look just like that. The obvious real world parallel to this is Maori face tattoos. That was the best I could find on Google, but I think that they're bringing the Sharans and the Maori and making something completely different and you notice also it goes down the neck too, which is again very Sharan of it, because with the Sharans it's like vines and stuff. There's
and
the
then
ring on her
where you
on her hand.
Sure. But more importantly, I think the bracelet.
Oh, that is the same symbol as on the torso thing.
I think that's what links. Instead of having a bracelet, they're basically doing the wireless collar and bracelet thing that they did with Moghedien.
I didn't even notice that the styling is the same, but when we get our shot of the Damane, it's the same sunbursty kind of. Yes. Yes.
So that's the bracelet is what is the control, which makes sense too because they're doing the arm movements. Okay, now this is a good shot. So yeah, you see, instead of just a necklace, it's a whole top piece, shoulders and neck.
Yeah, and
then of course this ball gag,
which it's not a ball gag. I looked this up, not the ball gag part. I looked up what it made me think of. So there's this thing called the slave iron bit, which if you just throw that into Google and you will see some very horrific pictures. Illustrations. But basically this is something that actually has its origins in Europe's patriarchal bullshit. There was this thing called, I'm forgetting the name, but it was called the shrew's bridle. And it was something put on women to keep them from talking. And it was literally this head cage that often had a tab that went into the mouth and held the tongue down so that you couldn't talk. But that was then turned into the slave iron bit, which was, again, there'd be a headdress kind of thing, but it would be a gag thing on the mouth and a tab that would go into the mouth and hold the tongue down so that you couldn't even swallow your own saliva. And there would be holes to let the drool come out, or with the shrew's bridle, there'd be a hole to allow them to eat sometimes. Yes, that picture.
So there's a quick,
the
photo
picture
of. Yeah, I mean, and you can see just how closely related those two things are.
Yeah, and it was specifically to keep people from talking and eating and to keep them degraded. This is...
And you can see in the show, they can force them to bite down on it. You don't need the straps because...
Right. There's magic stuff there. So it's not a ball gag. It's a slave iron bit, and it is just as horrifying as in real life. Yeah. I love it as a choice because it is horrifying. And really drives the point home about what's going on here.
And then you can see on that chest the matching symbol.
Mm-hmm. Also, I'm really curious about what's up with the face, like, paint.
The paint? Yeah, because that does look like paint.
Yeah, and, like, I wonder how much of what's on the Sul'Dam's faces is, like, a war paint decoration versus a tattoo. Like, I'm very curious to see them in their off time, because clearly this is like a high ceremony moment when the Karen arrives on the shore. So they're in their full battle dress, right? Like when they're relaxing in the kennels, what do they look like? I want to know. Maybe they also don't have the gag thing in, except when they're like out on parade. Like,
I'd like to point out the tear streaks down her face.
Yeah.
That she has a dirty face that then looks like she's had tears running down her face, cleaning those lines.
Yeah, they both look very unhappy, like furrowed brow, tight eyes. Yeah. Yeah.
And tidal wave against rocky cliffs.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, and that's not what a tidal wave looks like either.
No, that's what like an impact wave would look like. The water's not drawing out like it should. Clearly that wave is going to move a few rocks and then bounce back onto the ships. It would make way more sense to use this like at a city, on a port, on a plane, the cliffs.
Up a river.
Yeah, the cliffs doesn't make so much sense, but oh well. I'm sure that they're doing this all up and down the coast, and we will see far more practical applications of their battle magic in next season.
What, they didn't just see that little girl and was like, fuck that little girl?
There's a great meme where it's the picture of her with the wall in front of it. It just says, fuck that Oathbreaker in particular. It's like this little girl is like, yeah, that one. That was the worst. Yeah.
Someone suggested it would have been cool to see them land and collar her.
Ooh. She would have had to be a little bit older for that to work. But yeah, that would have been. But no, that's too much. That would have actually been giving us context and details. They need to just show up as a natural disaster of unspeakable proportion and then cut to black. Like, that's the cliffhanger that we deserve. Yeah, tsunamis don't work like that. Just pro tip, everyone. That is not how tsunami work.
But I feel a little bit like that little girl on the shore with the content of the Wheel of Time has come at us like a tidal wave. It has been a lot. We are going to finish up this part of our podcast. We've talked about the show and what we think. We've broken them down in an insane amount of detail. These will be coming out over the next, I don't know.
Don't make promises.
9 months. Yeah, I'm not going to make any promises as to how soon I'm going to get these out. If you're watching this not in real time, it means I finished all the editing, and it's probably almost time for season 2.
Give him a pat.
Yeah.
Send Seth a sympathy card if you're seeing this after the fact, because or congratulation card, because he's finally gotten through all the editing. And yeah,
we did almost all this recording in December, and in December, birthday, Christmas, I got COVID, I moved, and there was a few other little family detail stuff. Like, this December has been absolutely insane for me on top of this show. So I really do apologize for it taking so long for me to get to this stuff.
Yeah, but we've gotten through it now. And so what comes next is we are going to stop putting stuff on, we're going to stop recording stuff for YouTube. We're going to move back to doing our normal podcast content. Our next podcast episode will be wrapping up how we felt about the whole show. So you can catch our thoughts on the podcast, on the show over there in that feed. That'll be getting recorded in a couple of weeks. And then we will be returning to Path of Daggers and moving back into our normal content. So we hope that you will join us on podcast apps. Thank you so much for joining us for this incredibly long stretch of deep dives into the show. We've definitely beaten some things to death and back. I've enjoyed it. It's been an absolute fire hose of insanity to keep up with. I am looking forward to getting back to our much mellower, normal book deep dives. That will be pleasant. And looking forward to watching reaction videos and anticipating season 2 in between.
And we'll definitely, I think we're going to have a podcast episode where we sort of talk about the whole season as a whole, and what we thought about it, and, start to finish. I may want to do a rewatch binge before then, because now that I've seen everything multiple times individually, I need to watch the whole season over again. So,
yeah, but we will be doing that and then having our podcast not talk about the show constantly. We're going to really corral the podcast content. Like, the show is going to have its own episode, and then we will be back onto the book. So, there will be some separation of church and state on that front.
So the books are definitely church, and the show is definitely state.
The books are church.
Because one's my religion,
yeah,
and the other one is run by a big company.
Yeah, I did not get the show tattooed into my flesh. I got the books tattooed into my flesh. So, yeah. Like, comment, subscribe. We have social media at WoT Spoilers. Review our show on podcast apps. Share us with people who have read the series once and need a refresher course on everything that happened. And drink some water. It's good for you.
Go rewatch The Wheel of Time.
Go rewatch The Wheel of Time. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?